want him? You got him. Russell Westbrook has taken over as starting point guard for the Thunder, but for how long? I'm Mike Sherman, and this is Inside Thunder Basketball with Darnell Mayberry. Darnell, new Thunder coach Scott Brooks has given the people what they've been clamoring for. Last game, he made Russell Westbrook his starter at point guard. Is this permanent?
Yeah, I think so. The only reason it won't be is, maybe injury to Russell Westbrook, or, he has to play pretty bad to give the starting spot back to Earl Watson. This is what sort of we knew was coming. We just didn't know how soon it would be, and I think it's his job for the rest of the season.
Why was the move made last Saturday in Memphis?
Well, Scott Brooks keeps saying, he wants to see Russell Westbrook in different roles. He wants to evaluate him coming off the bench. He wants to evaluate him as the starting point guard, as a shooting guard coming off the bench. So I think he wants to see him in different roles. However, he's the number 4 overall pick. Again, we knew this was coming. It was only a matter of time, and I think it came perhaps earlier than we all thought.
What's the immediate difference that you've seen so far in this move? What did it produce on Saturday night that you went, wow, that looks different?
Russell was a lot more composed. He played with a lot more confidence playing with Kevin Durant, more minutes with Kevin Durant and Jeff Green, Chris Wilcox, and those guys. He didn't try to do as much as he does when he comes off the bench and he's playing with, it used to be Damian Wilkins and Kyle Weaver and those kind of guys. He was really composed. He let the game come to him. He only had 2 turnovers, which I thought was pretty good for him. He never got himself into trouble. He used to over-penetrate a lot and sort of find trouble areas on the court. And he didn't do that, and I thought that was a good sign.
Some of the NBA people that you've talked to, some of the people we've talked to at the arena, use the word out of control with Russell Westbrook. That wasn't really the case, though, on Saturday night, though, was it?
Yeah, and we got to see if he can do that again in these next couple of games. He's got some bulldog point guards, and Raymond Felton Wednesday against Charlotte, and he's got Jameer Nelson against Orlando. He has a height advantage over these guys and somewhat of a strength advantage, but those guys are bulldogs. So we want to see if he can. And then Mario Chalmers on Saturday against Miami, so who's known as a defender. We want to see if he can sort of duplicate what he did against Mike Conley in Memphis.
And then the great Dwayne Wade, does he match up against him Saturday night in Miami at all?
That's going to be interesting because, they might put Damian Wilkins on Dwayne Wade or even Jeff Green because he's longer, he's stronger. But I think you're going to see Dwayne Wade, Russell Westbrook go at each other, for spurts throughout the game.
Good luck to everyone on that one. Dwayne Wade has really looked like maybe the best player in the league. There's a lot of competition, but he's looked incredible. Darnell, let me ask you about what seems to be an incredible change in the vibe and attitude around this team since the change to Scott Brooks. How do you explain it? How do you account for it?
Damian Wilkins had a quote at practice on Tuesday. He said, you'd have to be sort of an idiot to not have more energy with a new coach. And I think they just respect Scott Brooks. I wrote about it, I think, 2 weeks ago. He was a player. He played in the league for 11 years. He's got a championship with the Houston Rockets. I think he brings a certain level of credibility that P.J. Carlesimo didn't have. P.J.'s success came before most of those guys were born or when they were, just barely, teenagers. So, I think the fact that Scott Brooks played in the league, I think, brings credibility to that locker room. And, they respect him, I think, more than they did P.J.
What, if anything, would this have to do with it? That there's a new guy, and now they have to prove themselves to a whole new decision maker. Does that
Well, for some of the guys, like Kevin Durant and Jeff Green, they don't have to prove anything. They're solid. But Damian Wilkins, Russell Westbrook definitely, Earl Watson, Nick Collison, and Chris Wilcox. Chris Wilcox especially, because you look at his numbers, I think he was averaging, before that Memphis game, 16.7 points and 7 rebounds in the 4 games in Brooks' first 4 games. His numbers were way down under P.J., so I think he sort of got lackadaisical under P.J. and sort of proving to Brooks that he can play.
Ball wasn't going into him as much either. Now under Brooks, it is going into him. They're really feeding the post. That's been interesting to watch. Last question, Darnell. The team has gone small. It's a new strategy. Mike Baldwin wrote about it today in the Oklahoman. Now, it seems to be paying off for everybody who's not 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
What is that going to mean for Robert Swift and Johan Petro going forward?
I think Robert Swift is probably the better of the two. Johan Petro just looks to be I wouldn't say the doghouse, but he just doesn't have a place for Johan. Robert Swift is actually a guy that they want to see what they have going forward. It's why they re-signed him to that qualifying offer and brought him back for this last year. So I know Sam Presti wants to to at least evaluate Robert Swift. So based on that alone, I think Scott Brooks must play Robert Swift. Johan Petro, it's not looking so good for his playing time.
Thanks, Darnell. Listen, to follow Darnell's thoughts about this team, be sure to check out his blog at News OK. It's called Thunder Rumblings. And then to continue the conversation on all things Thunder in the NBA, go to Oklahoma City's newest and best fan website at thundermadness.com.